So it's been an entire year since How We Want It was released, so I thought it would be fun to show you how I made it. So let's dive right in. So let me start by showing you this synth vocal thing in the intro. What it is it's a bunch of layers of me going like, I think like 8 to 10 layers of different vocal tracks, and I pitch corrected them really tightly. I've exported them to one track here, and then I added an LFO, which adds like a pulsing vibe. So that's kind of what you're hearing with the sound, kind of like you're playing a synth. I've got a lot of little moments in the song like this. So what I'll do is I'll take a part of the lead vocal and I'll reverse it, and then I'll add a bunch of reverb and chorus and effects, and then sometimes I'll reverse it back. But I like to use them as risers and reverse them so it makes it kind of amp up into the next moment of a song. You can't see all the plugins that I put on those particular tracks because I have them printed, which means I committed to whatever sounds I had on the track, and I printed it that way to save on my CPU. So unfortunately I can't show you all of what I did there, but that's a lot of those delay throw moments that you'll hear in the choruses of the song and other moments too. Okay, so let's dive right into the vocals. I recorded these vocals so wrong. I knew that it was wrong, but I just didn't really care. I didn't care much about acoustic treatment and sound dampening, and I recorded this vocal in my living room of my last apartment in a wide open space, far from ideal for recording. A lot of people will record in their closets, or they'll set up a little vocal booth, which is more of like what I do now. But this song is so frustrating because I am the most happy with how this vocal sounded, and it was kind of accidentally good. So I didn't have to do a lot of work on it. It just sounded really good from the start. A lot of the plugins are really boosting the volume here, so I'm gonna turn up the volume just so we can hear it. Here's what it sounds like without any plugins or effects on it.
It's not quite how we want it.
I've got an EQ, just the Pro Tools stock EQ, cutting some low end and boosting a lot of the really, really high end, which I know why I did it, but I don't like to do that anymore. But a lot of this, what you're seeing here, is just cutting some low frequencies to get rid of some of that boominess and to make a little bit more space for the instrumentation and drums and whatnot. And here's kind of some of the craziness. I am smashing it with some compression. This is the Renaissance compressor, the Waves R compressor.
It's not quite how we want it.
It's not even funny how much I'm squashing that vocal. Now I'm going to turn this back down because the next one is the LA2A, which is adding a lot of gain.
It's not quite how we want it.
Ooh, I love that compressor. It just really just flattens things out. This is kind of a slow compressor, so just doing more.
It's not quite how we want it.
What I wanted to do with the vocal here was I wanted all the vocal parts to sound really wide. I didn't want to lose any of the transients, but I wanted it to sound big and up front and loud in your face. Then I started to do a little bit more boosting frequencies, making the vocal sound a little bit more tonally like I wanted with an SSL EQ.
It's not quite how we want it.
Boosting some high end and some upper mids. And then I added a gate because I'm recording in a living room. And then I added another EQ, the Pultec EQ-P1A, adding some low end.
It's not quite how we want it.
Love that EQ. I'm a little shy to show you that I use this on this vocal, but I'm not doing a lot. I don't have any effects on it. You can see I've turned off the effects, and I'm really just using the EQ. I guess I just liked how it made it pop out a little bit more.
It's not quite how we want it.
Now here's kind of the secret sauce of this vocal chain. To me, what made it sound more 80s and vibey was adding a doubler. So it wasn't routing to the doubler, but I actually added it as a plugin, as an insert.
It's not quite how we want it.
And then I just got some de-essing, which I don't put at the end of my chain usually anymore. I like to put it before all the compression, but whatever, it sounds good. I have 18 to 20 vocal layers here. Some of them are melody parts that are doubles, like so they're panned left and right to make it really wide. Upper octave, a lower octave, and then I've got like 2 of every harmony that I have in here.
It's not quite how we want it.
And then with all the harmonies I've got here for the chorus, sound like this.
It doesn't matter if you talk about it and I talk about it, yeah we know. It's not quite how we wanted it.
So everything's really compressed, everything's pretty wide, has a lot of chorus effects and flangers on it to kind of give it that 80s vibe. So a lot of layers was the trick for this song. I can't talk about this song without talking about that synth that you hear in the choruses. This is like a Juno 6 emulator. This is the best plugin I've ever invested in. It's $60, go pick it up. And so this is what it sounds like. And then I added a lower bass note to make it sound deeper. Kind of sounds like this with it. And then I've got this other part I call the Africa lead. If you know 80s music, you'll see that I'm paying some homage to Toto. And then I didn't even introduce bass until the second half of the chorus. Other synth parts, let's see what I've got here. So I kind of layered this. Just kind of have that as a detail part. Just a lot of little moments like that. That's actually an Addictive Keys sound. So I record all my electric guitars with my little Santana SE electric guitar. It's like a $300 guitar, nothing fancy. I mic'd my amp that I recorded it through. It's a Bad Cat, like a 30-watt amp. And it's pretty basic, but I've got a lot of effects on it. Do a little compression, EQ, R compressor, do more, cutting, boosting a little bit, some multiband, and then adding some chorus, some flanger, just to make it sound more 80s, compressing again, and added this Voltec EQ again to add some low end. I wanted it to sound really big and wide. Finally, I've got it sidechaining to the lead vocal. And then what I did was I duplicated those, pitched them down an octave, which doesn't really sound good, but it added some depth in that second half of the chorus. So the drums are obviously another big aspect of this song that kind of create the vibe. So this is a Splice sample. Splice is amazing. But that's what it sounded like before. And then I took my BF76, squashed it, and this is really where that sound's coming from. Really slow compressor, and it's like opening up. And then I'm just doing a little bit of EQ to make it sound like I wanted, and then more EQ. Whew. Cymbals are really hard to make sound real with samples, or at least they were when I started producing. So I did record these hi-hats myself. Hi-hat 1 and 2, left and right, that are kind of bouncing around, making it sound even wider. They're not even really hi-hats, they're like shakers or something. But so there was that swing that really kind of like brought the song to life. In my opinion, what gave the drums the vibe that just felt like it completed the sound was all the percussion, which you'll see these 3 tracks. I had 30, 40 or more tracks of different percussion elements. I had cowbells, clicks and clacks, shakers, snaps, bongos, toms. Here's what they sound like in the chorus. This is the drums without the percussion. But then with the percussion, it's the full picture. The solo guitar I recorded on my amp as well. You'll see all these layers I have for the solo. Lower octaves, upper octaves, and a harmony. I just recorded another 2 layers. Pitched them up an octave. And then pitched them down. And that sounded really weird. I felt like it needed an actual recording of me playing it a lower octave as well. And then finally, here's the harmony guitar part that I recorded. And then with everything, and that's how we wanted, my friends. There's a lot of moving parts to the song. It was a lot of fun to record. It felt like the direction I wanted to be moving in for my music, and I'm really glad I released it, and can't thank you enough for all of the streaming that you've done of this song and the rest of my music. You guys are awesome. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it.